If you were already using Java and you have decided to switch to Kotlin programming language, then things might be pretty interesting to you in the beginning. But when you deep dive into the Kotlin programming language, then there are some concepts that might seem confusing to you, like what is unit class, how it is different from void in Java, or what is any class, what is nothing class, and all those things. So we are gonna see the difference of all these classes in this video. My name is Sagar Malhotra, and let's get started. So these are all the classes that we have to discuss today: unit, any, void, nothing, and there are these two special types which are not classes, but they are still confusing when we are using them with each other. Like void is a special type in Java which is not a class, but void is also a class that is present in Java package, and it can be also used in Kotlin package, Kotlin classes I mean. And then there is this null type, which is not an object, which is not a class, but it can be used in both Java and Kotlin. So we are going to see the difference of all of them. So let's start with the very simple ones, like this any class. So what is this any? Remember, all of these blue things are classes, so that means any is also a class, and that is the superclass of all the classes that you are creating. Let's see something in the code. So suppose I am defining a variable a of type any, then I can write any class, any primitive type, or anything, and that will be assignable to any class that is integer. So you can also check the class implementation, the root of the Kotlin class hierarchy. Every Kotlin class has any as a superclass, and that is exact same as object class in Java. So same as any, we also have this object class. So class object is the root of class hierarchy. That means this is the superclass of all the classes that we are creating. Either it is our class, or if there is any class that is predefined. So they will have any as the parent. So that means there will be a parent-child relation between all the classes. Either it is our custom class or these classes also. And any will be the parent of all the classes. It is as simple as that. So this is at the top of our hierarchy. And all the classes that we are going to create are the children of this any class. If you are creating a custom class my class, and you are not defining anything, and suppose you have to create the object of this class, then this can be also assigned as a type of any object, because this is a class and any is the parent of all the classes. And the next simple type is void. So void is also a class, but it is not from our Kotlin package, but it is from our java.lang package. If you can see here, java.lang, and this is not what you are usually going to use in your Kotlin file, because it is just as the wrapper class for our void type. Like if you have used Java, then there are these primitive type integer, and suppose there is this double, then for all these primitive types we have also these wrapper classes, integer or double. So if you don't already know, then these wrapper classes are used for replacing the generic types for our primitive values, like in map. So map expect two primitive types, two generic types. So we cannot write here int because these are expecting classes, but int and double, all these are primitive types. So we have to replace them with the respective these wrapper classes. And void is exactly same as the use case of these wrapper classes. So void is going to be used in these Java files only, and I hope this makes sense, because void class does not have any constructor, and here you can see the constructor is private, so you cannot create any void object. It is just used for these generic type replacement. So I hope this is clear. Void is just a class, but it is of different type. It is from java.lang package. Okay, then we are remaining with these two main classes. That might be confusing to you, because you might think, what is the use of this nothing class? And if you have also gone through the definition of this nothing class, then you know that this nothing class is used to define nothing. That means a type that never returns. For example, there is a function in Kotlin that has this error function. So error is a function that returns us nothing, because it always throws us an exception. Or there can be also another functions that we can create, for example loop, and for this function we are going to return nothing, because we know that this function is never going to end, and we are going to write true. And if you ever try to use the return type from these functions, so suppose a equal to loop, then this will not be reachable by our compiler, because our compiler know that this loop returns us nothing. So any code that is after this loop will not be reachable by our compiler. You can hover, and here you can see unreachable code, and just try to use this loop function inside of any Java class, and let me know in the comments what is this nothing type defined in our Java class. So if I am using here test kt dot loop, then what is the return type or how it is stated, just let me know in the comments. Okay, so we know that nothing is a type that never returns. Either it will run infinitely or it will just throw us an exception, like in the case of error function. But this thing can be also written as return unit, and we can return here unit. So this thing completely makes sense, and we can always run a while loop, and instead of using a separate type, instead of creating a new class for defining nothing, we can just write unit here, right? Or if we are defining another function, this also completely makes sense, but the only difference is our compiler will not know that this code is now unreachable. But just for this thing, a new nothing class type is created by our Kotlin developers. No, this is not the only reason. Let me tell you. If you can write this empty list, suppose, so here suppose I am writing here, well, a equal to list of type integer, then this can be considered as an empty list. But inside of this empty list function, if you can see, this is returning a list of type t, and here it is empty list, and inside of this you can see list of nothing. This empty list function is returning us a list of nothing, and we are assigning this list of nothing to list of integer. And you can also do the same thing for any other type, list of boolean, list of string, or list of any other custom class you are creating. So what does that mean? Let me write here. So nothing can be mapped to integer, boolean, string, or any other type. That simply means nothing is the children of all the classes that we are creating. Okay, now that is starting to make sense, because nothing is a value that never exists. And let me also show you why here this empty list function is returning us list of nothing. There is a reason behind it. So suppose there is a function. So suppose this is the function, and it has a list that is null or empty. And if we have to iterate over this list, then what we have to do is we have to first check for nullability, if this a is null or not, and only after that we have to iterate over this list. So just to remove this extra null check, what we can do is we can just define here empty list. So empty list, and now we know that this list is going to be empty. This is a list of nothing type, and it can be defined to any other type, list of integer, list of boolean, and now we don't need this check anymore. So extra nullability check is removed, and now we can definitely use this directly. So to prevent nullability in some conditions, we are using this nothing type, and here you can also consider this nothing as a class form of null. So same as this empty list, there is also other functions, empty map, empty set, empty array, and all of these are internally returning a list of nothing, because as I told you, list is the subtype of all the classes that you are creating. So list is the children of all the types, and all will be the parents of this list class, this nothing class. And also this nothing never exists, so that is obvious. The constructor of this nothing should be private, same as void. So you can also see here private constructor, nothing has no instances. So I hope now this nothing type is also clear. And now our favorite and mostly used type is this unit type. So if you are defining here a unit, and if you were not defining anything, that means this foo function will by default return us a unit object. And a unit is a singleton object. That means this is an object class in Kotlin, and you can also create the object, and you can access this singleton object everywhere by just writing this unit. And this perfectly makes sense, but this object cannot be used anywhere. And the reason is because you don't care about unit, you don't want to use anywhere, and you don't have to even define the return type of unit. So unit is just like you, no one cares, right? And same for these functions. If you don't want to return anything, or if you don't care about what is returning from the function, you just have to execute something, then just define the return type as unit, and you don't even have to write this return keyword anymore, because by default, if you don't return anything, you don't care about return type, either you are writing this, or if you are not even writing anything, it doesn't matter. And if you have already used Java, then this will be the exact same thing as writing this void type. So void is a separate type in Java, and this unit is the Kotlin version and Kotlin class version of this void. So let me also move this here, because it is also a class, and it is a singleton class. So let me just put that inside of a box, because it is a singleton class. And you also know you cannot create any instance of any, you cannot create instance of void, and also same for nothing. These objects cannot be created. And here you can see the return type is here void. So as I said, this unit, and if I am even defining here unit, then still this will be the same thing. This still returns unit, because unit is the class Kotlin class version of void in Java. So I hope now this is also clear. Void means nothing. That means you don't care about it. So void is just separated because you don't care about it. And the remaining type is this null. So null means you are referring to nothing in your memory. So if you are creating any object, so suppose in Kotlin, I am writing this. So that means this reference object is pointing to nothing. That means there is no object is present in memory, and A is pointing to nothing, not the nothing class, but literally nothing. And if you have started with Kotlin, then you know the superpower of Kotlin is it can define this nullable types separately. That means all the classes that you are defining, so either either it is already defined classes, or if there is any custom class, or if there is anything, so either they can be not nullable. That means this is a normal class, so normal class will be present inside of this circle. Just for an example, so if you are writing this, then you can define an empty list. But if you are defining a nullable type, so that means this can be also defined as null. So that means this B can also point to null, or it can also point to any list object. And same for this A, either it can also point to any integer, or it can also point to null. And same for our custom classes. So if you are defining here a foo object, so foo is a class, and if it is not nullable, that means we always have to get a foo object. So we have to first create a foo object that will be present in our heap memory, and A have to point to that created object. But if you are defining the type of this A as nullable, so that means A can either point to a foo object, or it can also point to null. So null is a whole category of all the classes. If I have to define it here, then what it will look like is there is a whole another circle like this, and then there are all the other classes. Like let's take these classes only. So any class can be also nullable. This unit class can be also nullable. This nothing class can be also nullable. So all the classes that you are defining, either it is yours, or it is by default present in any package, so all these can be nullable. And the objects that you are creating with these type either point to null, or they can point to any actual object of that type. So I hope now that makes sense. And if you have observed, so this any of nullable type is the parent of all the things, means null can be also assigned to it, and any object can be also assigned to it. So nullable any is the parent of all the classes. And what about this nothing of nullable type? So that puts us in a situation here, because if you are defining a nothing type here that is nullable, that means A can also point to null, and A can also point to nothing, but nothing never exists. So A can only point to null here. And obviously, if the constructor of nothing is not present, this nothing can never exist. Okay, okay. You might be thinking we can return nothing from a function, and we can write it like this, foo, and okay, like this. So here you can see by default compiler know that other code is not reachable, because this foo function is returning us nothing. So I hope this makes sense now. The most important thing to know is what is the actual use of nothing class. And I hope now you know this nothing is the actual subtype of all the classes, not this nullable nothing, because nullable nothing can also point to null, but this nothing can point to nothing. And this void is just another type in Java that you don't care about. So this void keyword is present in Java, but in Kotlin there is this unit class that you have to use instead of using this void. And the Kotlin compiler will make the required changes for you, so you don't have to worry about it. So I hope this video is helpful for you, and now you know the difference of all these: any, unit, nothing, null, void, and also where is the void class? Okay, we don't care. So I hope you know the difference of all these classes, and if this video was interesting, then make sure to like it. Also make sure to subscribe to the channel. It motivates me to keep posting such videos, and thank you for watching.